I am back in my car. I got a new car. I'm in a Toyota now, no longer driving the Ford that I did a couple other videos in. And what I'm doing today is a breakdown of the Bible for beginners. Because a lot of people don't really know what it's all about. They don't have all the context, maybe you didn't grow up in church. And so if that's you, then this video is for you. So, first of all, what is the Bible? The Bible is a collection of books, 66 books that were written by 40 different people that it took like 1,500 years for all of these books to be written. They were written across that time period, and yet all of these books have one narrative running through them. And that narrative is the story of God first creating humans, and then the humans, they sin. And now that they have sinned and they're imperfect, they can no longer partake in, they can no longer commune with God. And so he creates humans and they become imperfect. And then he selects a group of people to be the example. That is ancient Israel. He selects ancient Israel, and they are supposed to be like the example of what a nation can be if they follow God. So there's this long history of ancient Israel and how they follow God and they do things His way, and things go pretty well for them, and then they screw up and they start going off in another direction, and God punishes them, or they just suffer consequences of their actions. And all of that is in the first part of the book, which is the book being the Bible. So the first 37 books are called the Old Testament. And the Old Testament is the story of Israel. And then the New Testament is the story of Jesus, and then what happens after Jesus. So God creates humans, and then they sin and become imperfect. And then God selects Israel. And then God sends the Messiah, who is the one that is supposed to redeem humanity, so that they can commune with God again, and they won't be condemned to hell anymore. Well, in order for that to happen, there has to be some sort of atonement. Basically, someone has to make up for all this sin. And since God is infinitely good, then anything that is not infinitely good is infinitely bad. Because the number 1 is as close to being infinity as the number 10 trillion. Because infinity just keeps on going and it never ends. So if you are not infinitely good, then you are, for all intents and purposes, infinitely evil. So only something that is infinitely good can make up for all of that infinite evil, which means that God had to sacrifice himself. And so God comes in the form of a man, and that man is the one that we know as Jesus. And hang on, I'm waiting for the light to change. Anyway, so God comes in the form of a man, and he allows himself to be killed, and then he goes to hell. And when he goes to hell, he takes all the sin with him, and all that sin is laid on him, and well, he burns in hell for 3 days, and then he comes back to life to show that he truly is God, because He has brought himself back to life. He's burned up all the sin. It's all made up for. And now, what are we going to do? Because it's been 2,000 years, and he has gone to heaven, and he hasn't come back in all that time. And so, we've just been waiting for him to come back. Well, the story is, what you're supposed to do is continue to live your life to bring glory to God and bring other people into this communion with God. You know, being a Christian is not an easy life, but it's still better, you know, dang it. People need to stop braking so fast. Don't they know I have equipment in the back of my car? Anyway, so I'm at a railroad crossing. Anyway, so the rest of the New Testament, after the story of Jesus' life, the rest of it is letters that were written from the leaders in the church, like Peter and Paul and a few others. They were writing letters to each other, writing letters to churches, and just encouraging each other, because it was illegal to be a Christian back then, because Christians wouldn't worship Caesar, and that was a big deal, because the way that Rome managed to keep everybody in line was they would allow them to worship their own gods, as long as they would also worship Caesar. But Christians refused to worship Caesar. So, a lot of people are turning around at this railroad crossing. I think I'm going to do the same. Especially since I'm going nowhere in particular. Anyway. So, there are all these letters that are written from leaders in the church that they're writing to other churches and encouraging them to just keep the faith, you know, and just stay strong and keep pushing on and just keep living your life. And so then the last book in the Bible, you know, the first book in the Bible was the beginning of the world. The last book of the Bible is the end of the world, and that book is called Revelation. And it is trippy. I don't recommend reading it if you're a beginner, because it reads like a bad acid trip, and it's all like metaphors, and it's all symbolic, and there's like numerology, and there's symbolism. It's a crazy book, and nobody really understands it. But anyway, so that's an overview of the story that the Bible tells. Now, the Old Testament was written, there's like 400 years between the Old Testament and the New Testament. And the Old Testament tells the story from the perspective of the Jews, and then the New Testament tells it from the perspective of Christians. Like, it's the same faith, but it changes. The Jews go astray and they don't accept Christ, so they are no longer part of that communion with God that the Christians now have. It's hard to explain really what that means like, since I grew up in church, it's not easy to explain exactly what that means without using words that I've heard in church all my life. But anyway, the Old Testament is written in Hebrew. The New Testament is written mostly in Greek, actually only in Greek. There are parts of the Old Testament actually that are written in Aramaic, which is like, it's a language that nobody speaks anymore. At least not like, there are no more native speakers. People only speak Aramaic so that they can read the texts of the Bible. But anyway, Old Testament in Hebrew, New Testament in Greek, because Greek was like the universal language at that time. So if it were written today, it would have been written in English. And so, like, I don't know where to go from here. I've kind of just been rambling for the past 11 minutes and 30 seconds. The books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Those are the first 5 books. Those are the books that the Jews call the Torah. The Old Testament, Jews called the Old Testament the Tanakh because it's like an acronym, because there's the Torah, that's the T in Tanakh, and then the N stands for something that means books of prophecy, and then the K in Tanakh is like books of poetry. I don't know, it's something like that. But the first 5 books are the books of the law, and that's the Torah. So Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And then Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, and Job. Those are all books of history. They're stories of people, and they're stories of mostly Israel. Job is not about Israel. Job is about a guy that really gets screwed when God makes a deal with the devil. Anyway, so Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job. Psalms is the book of Hebrew poetry. Proverbs is written by King Solomon, and it's basically just a bunch of, well, proverbs, you know, little short bits of wisdom. So Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes is also written by Solomon, and it's just more wisdom. And then Song of Solomon is written by Solomon, but it's not wisdom. It's actually a love song. It's a really long poem that he wrote for like one of his wives, I guess. And then Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, and then there are a bunch of other ones. I don't remember what order they go in, but they're like Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Obadiah, Jonah, Amos, Hosea, Joel. They're all more prophecy, and those are all the books of prophecy. And Malachi, I think, is one of them. And Zephaniah and Zechariah. So I think that's all the books of the Old Testament. And then the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Those are the 4 books that tell the story of Jesus. Matthew, Mark, and Luke are more similar to each other than John is, because John focuses on things that the other guys didn't already talk about. But those 4 books are the story of Jesus. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then Acts is the only book of history in the New Testament, and it tells the story of the early church. And then Romans, so Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, no, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Titus, Philemon, I feel like I might be forgetting one. Hebrews, James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st and 2nd and 3rd John. Those are all the letters that I was telling you about. And then there's Revelation at the very end. So, oh, there's also Jude is another one of the letters. So that's a breakdown of all the books of the Bible. I don't know what else there is to talk about as far as what the Bible is, what is it about. Anyway, the Bible is, there are a lot of translations of the Bible. This is what I'm going to end my video on because I'm 17 minutes in. So this is what I'll end my video on. The translations that I recommend are actually there are some translations that are more literal than other translations. So the English Standard Version is a good one if you want to read it like almost how it was written in the Hebrew and the Greek. You know, it's not going to be perfect unless you actually learn those languages, but if you want to get as close as you can in English to reading the original versions of the Bible, I would go with the English Standard Version. But if you're a beginner, I would recommend the Christian Standard Bible, because it is written in it's written in like modern American English. And yet it doesn't like take too much liberty with changing the meanings of words and stuff. Like some translations, they really change the way that things are written. But the Christian Standard Bible, I think, is pretty good. The Holman Christian Standard Bible, HCSB, is an even better one, though. And that's the one that I use primarily. I think it's the most understandable, most readable. And so those are the 3 that I recommend. I also recommend New King James Version, not the original King James Version, but the New King James Version. They're not very similar, actually, so I don't know why it's called the New King James Version, but anyway. Yeah, so those are the translations that I recommend. And let's see, I'm at about 19 minutes. I think I'm going to end it there for now. I think I've done just a brief overview, break down what the Bible is about, and like all the different books. And so, happy reading!